Welcome to Citizens Forum. This show is being filmed on, I know it's Tuesday. I think it's June 4th, am I right?
Correct, yeah.
Tuesday, June 4th in the beautiful Memorial Arena. I'd like to start off by thanking the Shaw staff and our volunteer crew who make it all happen. The first part of Citizens Forum is always the Walter and Jack show, and we'll start off. Topic number one, I guess, is this is something I've thought for a long time. And I think we've been demoted. We people, we citizens, we used to be citizens, and now we've been changed into taxpayers. And I think this has been done quite deliberately. I can remember, I'm bad on time, but like 12 years ago, something like that, the word citizen kind of disappeared from the media, and it was replaced with the word taxpayer. And fast forward to today, the word citizen is never mentioned. The politicians won't mention it. They call us taxpayers. The media calls us taxpayers. And unfortunately, we've come to the point where we call ourselves taxpayers. But there's a difference between taxpayers and citizens. In a democracy, the citizens are supposed to be the people who run the show. Taxpayer is something completely different. I'm not sure exactly what a taxpayer is.
Well, it limits your role to an economic model and shoves aside all the other values that don't necessarily reflect hard economics. So there's a problem there for sure.
I think we've got to take back the word citizens. We have to phone the media up and demand that they start to use the word citizens. I mean, that's what we are. It's, we don't call the media corporate propagandists. Most people don't. But they've changed our name from citizen to taxpayer. We've got to take the word back, tell the politicians, and stop using it ourselves. We ourselves should start calling ourselves citizens, and we have to start being citizens, demanding to be allowed. Please, we have to ask our rulers, our corporate and political rulers, please let us be citizens, which means we're the ones who are supposed to be running the show. It's supposed to be about us.
Well, even having said that, the role that the power elites want us to play is the role of consumers, and be a good little consumer. Even to become a taxpayer is an elevating thing, because then you're now having legitimacy to make comment about how they're spending our tax money. But I think we're kind of always been relegated to these lesser roles in society. And it's always to our detriment. We end up with governments like we are having these days because of it.
Yeah, and I think if you take any issue that people are interested in, from healthcare to poverty to genetically contaminated foods to, just the health of our society, I think in all of those issues, if citizens had more power and if we had more democracy, I think we'd be better off in all of, and plus, the national debt would be much less because we wouldn't have let them steal from us.
Exactly.
We would know what's going on and we'd have the power to stop them.
Yeah.
So the thing about citizens is important. Walter, you wanted to talk about?
Well, we just stumbled upon something in the local paper today in regards to the Wi-Fi debate in schools. And School District 61 has had this debate going on for the last couple of years, and I was just noticing. School District
61 is Victoria.
The Greater Victoria School District, and which is almost evenly split on full-on rollout of Wi-Fi, and another group in the school board wanting to take precautions
because of the dangers of using Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Deborah Nora had brought forward a motion to, for instance, that the school board would purchase a meter that would measure the emissions from the Wi-Fi technology to see if it met the current standards. And there was no support for the motion in the meeting.
Now, we just saw this. It was in the Saanich News. I'm not sure the date.
May 14th.
May 14th?
Yeah. Sorry, May 24th.
Okay, May 24th, Saanich News. School trustee Deborah Knorr brings forward a motion to buy a tester.
Yeah.
To test the emissions from the wireless technology that the school board has put and wants to put more of
Yeah.
into schools, and the school board votes it down? What was the vote? Do you know? Was it
Well, it was in a
5 to
committee, and it wasn't the whole school board, but there wasn't enough support for them to pass the motion. But what's interesting is, of course, number one is, why not have a meter? It's like measuring air quality.
Just sounds disgraceful. I
yeah,
mean,
why not?
it's beyond belief. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm missing some important point. But people say, and it's well known, the science proves that Wi-Fi is dangerous. There's really no question about it,
Yeah.
even though we never hear about it, and our political elite and tell us it's safe. It isn't. It's dangerous. And the school board refuses to even look at the issue of buying a tester. It just sounds...
You have to realize that there's an ideology that's driving their decision making that's not based upon reality. And I think if you look at the article, and if you look at a statement that was made by John Bird, who's the president of the Victoria CPAC, which is the Parents Advisory Councils, and he said it's safety on the one hand and educational opportunity on the other. Those are really the two sides of the issue. Now, Jack, that isn't accurate. That's not an accurate depiction of the situation.
No, not at all.
And
it's not safety on one hand and educational opportunities
No.
on the other hand, because as you said, you can do 95% of what you can do with Wi-Fi. You can do by just wiring everything in.
And you can actually do it better, because cabled technology delivers a lot wider bandwidth and more information and all that. So you can actually do it better with cabled. And if there's the odd time when the student would like to walk around and while being connected to the internet, not really an issue. But because they're framing it that way, in some way or other, they're going to miss out if you don't have wireless, which is totally incorrect. Cannot be supported. The public has the wrong idea. Now, the other point I'd like to make is, and this has been the case we've been making for years, that our health officials have been discredited on this issue, that all their sources that they're using are industry sources, and their measurement of harm is archaic and outdated, and medical health officers from around the world are saying that now, not just here. So what we're saying is what the people that Peggy Orcherton is listening to, and Mike McAvoy and others.
These are the members of the school board.
Yeah, these members of the board are listening to discredited sources that have no scientific basis for their analysis.
But even if they do have scientific basis, even if they did, when it's a safety issue,
Yeah.
you've got to err on the side of caution, especially in schools. And
But what's happening there, from what I mentioned to you before, is that this agenda is being driven by the Ministry of Education. They're telling the school boards we're going to have wireless technology. It's going to be the 21st century learning model, and this is how it's going to go. And they're more or less carrying out the agenda from the Ministry of Education, which is terribly flawed. So,
but here's our school board. Okay, these are the people we elect.
Yeah.
Why? I just don't. I mean.
I know what you're trying to say is that when there's enough evidence that there may be some harm, it's prudent to take some steps to protect your safety.
Yeah.
That's only common sense. That's why we're still on the planet, as human beings have been able to assess danger and say, well, there's a chance that like back in the Stone Ages, that a saber-toothed tiger might jump out and eat me there, so I probably won't go over there. That's prudence. That's what we exercise in order to survive.
And yet everywhere we look, Monsanto is allowed to spread their genetically contaminated foods. The wireless industry is allowed to do this to us. And we turn to the media for help. They're silent about the truth. Although we should thank the Saanich News for at least printing this story, which we saw.
It's actually a fairly good, well reported, and I'd have to give them kudos
The
for
politicians are nowheresville. I mean, aren't they supposed to be working for us, protecting us? And yet from top to bottom, every government, every spokesman, every critic, every cabinet minister, it's safe, just like cigarettes used to be safe. I think, what is wrong with these people? And it's because our whole system, our whole democratic system has been corrupted. And if we don't take it back.
Well, the other thing I noticed that Peggy Orchton, said that a small but very vocal group are opposed to Wi-Fi in schools. How many times have you heard the line, the small but vocal group of environmentalists were opposed to something? That's what they probably said about the Enbridge pipeline. They probably said about almost anything that citizens were trying to stop. And that's not a fair charge. It's inaccurate. And the only reason why the group would be fairly small, but I've seen them pack the chambers, the largest groups you ever see going into the school board offices. So there's a few hundred of people that are opposed to Wi-Fi. So I don't think it's fair.
Well, I'm opposed and I never go, so there's thousands of us.
To frame the issue that way, again, is polarizing, and it's not accurate. And I would just like to finish up by saying, Peggy Orchard's having trouble making a decision between these two different experts. But guess what? That's her job. That's why she's there. She does have to make a decision one way or the other.
She's the chair of the school board.
Exactly. But she's a member of this board, and she has to sift through the truth and the untruths. And she has to come to accept, on the basis of just good hard analysis, that our chief medical health officer and the health officer for British Columbia does not have credibility on this issue because they've been relying on industry information forever, and they've not allowed independent and credible evidence showing that there is harm to be entered into the conversation. So she has to make that. She has to look at this in a much more objective fashion and get away from the directives that are coming from the Ministry of Education.
So that's a quick look at what's happening on the school board. It's interesting stuff. It's too bad the media doesn't give it a lot more coverage.
Well, the people that are working on this issue are doing a fine job, and they're very, very dedicated. I think at the end of the day, we're going to see a sea change in the Victoria School Board. Those directors that refuse to listen to the public will be gone in the next election, I think. They're losing popularity, and I think if they don't come to their senses and support parents and teachers in this issue, that they're all going to be gone.
Of course, we were saying that about Christy Clark not very long ago.
That's true, but that's how it works, by the way. I mean, it's fair if they want to stick to their guns.
But it's important that the public knows what's going on, and yet, if just by chance we wouldn't have picked up this newspaper today here at the studio, and it's 2 weeks old already, neither of us had heard about it. So the public has a right to know, and I mean, look at the coverage they're giving, for example, to the Stanley Cup right now. I mean, it's June, for God's sake. Massive coverage about every detail, and that's fine. I mean, people like their hockey, but why is there no time anywhere to give honest and real coverage to an issue that's this important? In a democracy, the citizens have to know what's going on, and the only way we can do that is from our government and from the media, and both of them don't seem to work for us on these issues. I mean, the truth is out there. The science is out there. What Walter is saying about the science is correct. This stuff is dangerous. You may think it's not that dangerous, but it's just like cigarettes. And the health disaster that is going to befall us because of it is going to be just like tobacco, and it's
going to take a little
pretty.
time. Now, a couple other things I brought in, Jack, was I saw reports of demonstrations by citizens in Japan opposing the reactivation of some of their nuclear power stations. There was reports that 60,000 people were demonstrating on Monday, and exactly like you said, there was no corporate media coverage of that whatsoever. But there's a huge concern in Japan.
There's a huge concern around the world that the meltdowns that the nuclear industry always said would never happen, don't worry, there were I don't know how many, 3 or 4 meltdowns in Japan. These are still completely out of control in Fukushima, Japan. I believe that large amounts of radioactive water and steam are still being emitted into the air and into the ocean because they simply can't deal with it. It's a nuclear environmental nightmare. And the role of our governments and our media has been to completely refuse to tell us about it. The nuclear industry is big. It includes some of the biggest corporations in the world, and they don't care what happens to us. And so they use their influence to make the media, well, they own the media. So the media
This
says
should
nothing.
be,
And it's here. I mean, we are on the West Coast. It has come and gone, and it's back. We are, I mean, it's a nuclear disaster.
yeah, this should be in the scale like the Manhattan Project when they were developing nuclear
So yeah,
weapons.
on the scale of 1 to 10, this is a 10.
You know, there should be a global effort right now to contain the radioactivity that's being emitted from.
And tell people so we
Exactly.
get away from nuclear power.
There should be about a global effort here, and ultimately, it's one of the most serious environmental issues facing us in our world today. It supersedes in the urgency even of climate change. And what is strange is that there's virtually not a word being said by the Green Party of British Columbia, for instance. This is their issue. Why aren't they really making that effort to educate the public? Why aren't they digging and ferreting out the facts and trying to get them published? But we're just not seeing it happen. And of course, we're not seeing the NDP doing any work on that at all. And the
Or
Liberals don't
Mr.
expect
Harper's
it.
government. It's in fact, the federal government, I believe, stopped testing shortly
Yeah.
after Fukushima. They were testing. They stopped in order to. And where was the media when this happened? Where has the media been since the day, a year and a half ago, when there hasn't been a word since? Folks, it is really, to me, it's the biggest environmental nightmare that we people have ever created, single event. And it's like they just want to keep us out of the loop.
Well, I think there's.
In Japan, they are shutting down nuclear power plants.
They shut all their power plants
Which
down.
is good news. Too late, but good
And
news.
surprisingly, they survived the winter, and they seem to do-
Germany has decided to move ahead with
Exactly.
scrapping the whole thing. So be forewarned, everybody. This is what's going on.
Well,
And
it's
yeah,
very
where is the
serious
Green
because
Party?
we have 250 nuclear power stations in North America. Some of them are getting quite old. Some of them are setting on fault lines and setting very close to bodies of water, as vulnerable or more vulnerable than the Fukushima.
And on an
plant.
ongoing basis, there's more cancers closer to them than there are further away. I mean,
Yeah, it's an issue
but who
that's not
cares,
being
right?
discussed. It's quite terrifying, but the thing is we can take control and we can decommission these power plants, and even Fukushima, the radiation there can be contained with the effort. If they threw an international effort, they could contain the what's being emitted from that plant, but we're just not seeing it happen.
and we got to contain it for the next 10,000 years. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, but you could also have to gather up that radioactive material and transport it somewhere else, and that's the big deal. A couple other issues. Of course, BC Hydro is now going out to install their smart meters. There's around 85,000 houses that don't have smart meters.
Right, so all, people like myself, we are the holdouts. BC Hydro is now, I've heard,
Yeah.
going after people, going to their homes, giving them misinformation about how safe all of this is.
They're-
You can't believe BC Hydro.
They're calling it re-education.
Yeah,
They're
re-education.
educating people about the real facts, and we know that
I think
can't
they
be
had
trusted.
people go to the Soviet Union to
Yeah.
learn how it's done.
You can go to stopsmartmeters.ca or to the other websites, and you see the facts there that really fly in the face of what Hydro is saying. Again, we're not seeing much support from the Greens or from the NDP on this issue.
Or the media.
Or the media. And I mean, what citizens are calling for is having the right to opt out of the program at no cost. Just simply, as if they really don't want to have a smart meter on their home, they should have a right to just say no, thank you.
And even if you have one, even if they've already installed it, and this is very important, you should have the right to say, no, you can't turn it on.
Yeah.
And then somebody will come by and read it. It will be exactly like the old meter, except a waste of money because they put it on. But there's no reason to turn them on. So if you've got one, phone Christy Clark. The Premier's office is in the phone book in the blue pages, or find her number, phone her up and say, I don't want my meter turned on. If it is on, I want it turned off.
Well, the NDP and the one Green member of the legislature could have a private member's bill and submit it asking for no cost opt-out. This is only makes sense and is only fair.
Now, I think you mentioned that Saanich Mayor Frank Leonard is on the board of a company.
Well, it's called the BC Investment Management Corporation. They wholly own Corix, who were the company that won the contract from BC Hydro to install the meters, the hydro meters in the first place, the wireless meters. And Frank Leonard is on the board of directors.
Is it a private company or is it a government company?
Private corporation.
So private corporation, we've got 1 minute left. Private corporation owns Corix. Corix is the one making a lot of money by installing these dangerous smart meters on your home. And just as a point of interest that Frank Leonard is on the board, just something that the public should know.
That's how it works, Jack, how these powerful corporations reach out and connect powerful people and important people in our communities, like mayors, who make many decisions on development, and it's in Frank Leonard's interest to act in a way that supports that corporation at the same time as he's a mayor of this the city of Saanich. So there is a conflict of interest there.
We're out of time. Thank you very much for watching this segment of Citizens Forum, the Walter and Jack Show. Thank you, Walter, and see you in segment 2. Welcome back to Citizens Forum, Part 2. Our guest in this segment is Dave Friend. We're going to be talking about a wonderful project that Dave has in the schools called Growing Young Farmers. And we're going to start off with a video that maybe you can just say something about.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me back the second time. Thank you, I appreciate that. Yes, just a few days ago, a couple of guys from here came up to Sydney Elementary and we filmed for 2 hours a grade 4 class there, which I've been working on for a couple of years. And yeah, the Growing Young Farmers is where I go into the school every week and we talk about food insecurity, and then we talk about food security and local and organic and growing, and then they actually go out and grow the food. So it's a non-profit society, and yes, we are looking for money to get more people to get into more schools, and I volunteer my time, but I want the society that I founded to pay those grower educators. Yeah. And there's more teachers, more principals getting it, and more requesting it, which is great.
So we're going to watch the video, and remember, this is a group that is doing, I think, very good work, and is looking for some money to help make it all happen. So let's see the video.